Cincinnati 911.
He has no pulse, no breathing, no nothing.
I'll walk you through CPR. Are you ready?
911 operators saving lives.
Got paramedics already responding. I want you to stay online. I want you to listen to me, and we're going to help me out, okay? We're going to do what we can to try and save her.
It happens every night in Cincinnati.
I want you to pump the chest hard and fast, at least twice per second, and at least 2 inches deep. Got it?
That's what it sounds like when the person who answers 911 is medically trained.
Can you feel her heart beating? Okay, then stop doing the compressions.
This is what it sounds like when they're not.
My sister, she may be having a heart attack.
I could have died that day.
She got a defibrillator.
My heart has stopped 3 times.
All right, we're going to go ahead and start EMS, okay?
Yes.
All right.
No one gave us any instructions. They just hung up.
Please hurry.
Ma'am, I'm not the one that's coming. EMS is coming, okay?
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the call. They've been dispatched, okay?
They're saying they're on their way and hang up. And your life is in someone else's hands.
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the call. They've been dispatched.
The ambulance was on the way, but for the next 7 minutes, there was no one on the other end of the line as her defibrillator kept jolting Rhonda Andrews back to life.
I want to hear the person, a strong person, saying, take her, lay her down, do this, do that.
And
Instead, I heard, okay, they're coming, bye.
I start the fire department and get off the phone to answer other emergencies.
Saying that help is on the way without giving any pre-arrival instructions.
2 current Cincinnati police dispatchers told the I-Team they're often assigned to answer 911 calls with no medical training.
Are you trained today to handle a medical call?
No, I am not.
It's sad and scary at the same time. It's scary because you don't know what's going to happen to those people, and it's sad because you put yourself in their shoes, and how would you feel if that was you?
It keeps me up at night because I've gotten calls that I could not handle with the training given to me.
That's not the case in Hamilton County's 911 center.
What's your name, sir?
Where everyone who answers 911 calls is a certified emergency medical dispatcher. I'm standing on the city limits. That house is in Cincinnati. This house is in the county. When this resident dials Hamilton County 911, 19 times out of 20, this is what happens.
911 emergency dispatcher Hubbard.
19 times out of 20, Hamilton County 911 will answer the call within 10 seconds. But when his neighbor calls Cincinnati 911 in an emergency, there's a 1 in 5 chance this will happen. One out of every 5 emergency callers to Cincinnati 911 waits 10 seconds or longer just for someone to answer the phone.
Because that is really disturbing to me to see that kind of variance. Every second matters.
City council members grilled Cincinnati's emergency communications director, Joel Estes, who told them the city's hiring freeze is the real problem.
We currently have 17 vacant operator dispatcher positions and 10 vacant E911 positions.
27 unfilled positions at the newly civilianized emergency communications center. That's why untrained people sometimes answer emergency calls.
We're continuing to do either police or fire to get people on the floor and working as quickly as possible.
Mr. Estes.
The I-Team tried to get answers as Estes left the hearing.
Is everyone who answers 911 in the city of Cincinnati medically trained?
No answer. After we confronted officials in City Hall, they granted our previous request for an interview with Director Estes.
Is everyone who answers a 911 call in the city of Cincinnati medically trained?
Emergency medical dispatch trained, not at this time.
When police and firefighters jointly ran the dispatch center 3 years ago, 911 operators would transfer medical calls to paramedics sitting right next to them.
We don't do that anymore. Now the person who takes the call, in almost all cases, is EMD certified, and they're able to provide those pre-arrival instructions for people.
Then why are there still calls like this?
And you said your father's doing CPR?
Yes, he's doing everything he knows how to do. We're not very great at it. He's older. I'm blind.
There's no way of knowing if it would have made a difference, but people have died waiting for an ambulance while untrained operators had no choice but to disconnect the call.
My father's sick and he can't keep doing this.
Okay.
Please help us.
All right, we're giving them all the information. They're on the way, okay?
You can't take someone off a phone or a police frequency. You can't afford to train them right now because you don't have enough people.
That's very, very true, actually. The reality is that we do the best we can, but operations always has to take precedence.
When you call 911, it's more of a lottery. Either you get someone that's trained to help you or you don't.
I wouldn't call it a lottery when it's 90% certain that you're going to get an EMD trained person.
Do those odds mean 4,500 of the 45,000 medical calls in Cincinnati every year are answered by medically untrained operators?
There's usually between 7 and 9 of us on the phones at one time. And when dispatchers are on the phones, the chances of you getting them 1 in 9, 2 in 9 sometimes.
This is life and death.
Yes, it is. This is life and death.
Please hurry.
I lived through this. I see my family again. The next person might not live.
And several states require full emergency medical training before someone can even sit in the chair and answer a single 911 call. Ohio has no minimum training requirements for 911 operators.
And Brendan, your investigation is getting a lot of reaction.
That's right, Carolyn Clyde. The resolution right in my hands was drafted by City Council member Charlie Winburn. It would fully train and fully staff the city's emergency communication center, which is down 27 operator dispatcher positions in a hiring freeze. Right now, some operators and dispatchers have no choice but to work 16 consecutive hours answering emergency calls. Help is on the way, but the first responder is the 911 operator.
Listen to me very carefully because I'm going to tell you how to do chest compressions, all right?
A heart attack call filled with detailed instructions lasting 7 minutes.
Open up her mouth. The paramedics are there. Let them take over. All right, you done well.
Thank you, sir.
Another heart attack call lasts only a minute.
Please hurry.
Ma'am, I'm not the one that's coming. EMS is coming, okay?
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the call. They've been dispatched, okay?
The difference? One 911 operator was medically trained, the other was not.
When you call and you have a medical emergency, I should be able to tell you exactly what steps you need to take while you're waiting for the fire department to arrive on scene.
The public's essentially in danger. If someone's choking, you could die within the 3 to 5 minutes it takes for the fire department to get there. And with layoffs on the table, it's going to take longer than that. This is a serious problem.
The original plan was to cross-train all of us, and now they say we don't have the staff or time to do so.
Staffing is a problem for us. Obviously, the budget constraints have affected everybody, and it's impacted us very hard.
Joel Estes is the director of Cincinnati's Emergency Communications Center.
Someone sitting constantly taking 911 calls for 8 or 12 hours a day. Right now we're on 12-hour shifts, handling the types of calls that we handle. These things stress people out significantly.
He told City Council he has no choice but to force those stressed-out operators and dispatchers to work even longer.
If a person has worked a 12-hour shift, then they would be only mandated to work 4 hours.
That's 16 hours.
Correct.
Can you tell the people of Cincinnati that they're going to get the same level of help from someone who's on their 16th hour of answering emergency calls as they would from the person who's on their first or even their 12th hour?
Looking over the statistics, we haven't seen any problems with the folks that have worked those hours.
If it was you calling 911, you would want somebody with the right mental state taking your telephone call and helping you out.
The I-Team reviewed dozens of 911 calls obtained through a public records request.
Listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me. We're already getting them started, okay?
I had a 3-month-old child that was not breathing. I was not able to legally give them CPR instructions, even though I know how to do CPR.
Would you be breaking policy to give them that advice?
Absolutely.
So you guys have been told if you're not medically trained, don't give the advice?
Correct.
If they're not medically certified, but they think they might be able to help the person on the other end of the line with a medical condition, are they allowed to give that assistance?
Somebody that's not medically trained, has no medical training, is not going to be making these types of assessments over the phone. So the answer to that is going to be no.
Cincinnati police dispatchers used to work for the police department. Now they're part of the city's new emergency communications center, consolidated and civilianized. With dozens of unfilled positions, the city is pulling police dispatchers off the radios to answer 911 calls. When this police officer needs help, he may have to wait because his regular dispatcher may be answering 911 calls.
Cincinnati 911, what's the address of your emergency?
The reason? The Emergency Communications Center is down 27 operators and dispatchers. The attrition rate has increased every year since the city took police and fire dispatch away from the police and fire departments. And last year, 22% of 911 calls took longer than 10 seconds to answer.
Do you see them?
Since then, we've actually gotten it up to 83% by reallocating some more resources to the time frames where we have the greatest call volumes.
Mr. Estes is passionate about the 911 calls being answered within a certain amount of seconds. If we have to combine police channels, like District 2 and 4 would be on one dispatcher's shoulders, so we could put a dispatcher on the phones to get that call answered faster.
Sometimes they're pulled off of police frequencies. They're pulled off of a district, and two districts are combined on one frequency with one dispatcher, so 911 calls can be answered. Is that true?
That is true. The reality is that we have to make sure that we get those 911 calls answered. I mean, that's our primary mission, get the calls answered and get the resources out there.
And that means sometimes fire dispatchers are now also dispatching police officers.
They only had 4 to 12 hours on the phones with a trained police call taker, and they unfortunately have put in the wrong incident types, which the difference between a robbery and a gun is a big difference.
I would like to see the emergency communications staff trained fully. No more excuses. I want us to serve the city of Cincinnati to the best of our ability.
Roughly 11,000 people have dialed Cincinnati's 911 emergency number with a medical emergency in the 90 days since our first I-Team investigation aired. We revealed untrained dispatchers were working 16-hour shifts while answering life and death calls with no medical training. Soon, that may be against the law.
My sister, she may be having a heart attack.
They waited 7 minutes for an ambulance to arrive because an untrained 911 operator had no choice but to hang up the phone.
Please hurry.
Ma'am, I'm not the one that's coming. EMS is coming, okay?
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the call. They've been dispatched, okay?
That felt like an eternity.
I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the call. They've been dispatched.
A long time.
Rhonda Andrews lived to tell the tale and just maybe change the law.
I want to dial 911 and always get a trained person.
Councilmember Charlie Winburn responded immediately to our I-Team investigation in May, getting Cincinnati to lift its hiring freeze and fully train all its dispatchers.
Citizens who were experiencing cardiac arrest and emergency medical situations were at the hands of dispatchers and operators who could not help them.
Now he says he has the votes to pass a new ordinance making it against the law for an untrained person to pick up the phone when you dial 911.
Never again will a dispatcher or operator disconnect a citizen of the city of Cincinnati or a visitor to the city of Cincinnati that needs emergency service.
Saying that help is on the way without giving any pre-arrival instructions.
2 Cincinnati police dispatchers spoke exclusively with the I-Team, saying they routinely answered 911 calls with no medical training.
So I want to thank Channel 9, because as a result of Channel 9, you were able to create a new law in the city of Cincinnati. This is huge for Cincinnati to make certain that everyone has good public safety.
Well, this is it, and it's not law quite yet, because Councilmember Winburn says he'll file the proposal tomorrow and that he does have the votes to pass it as an emergency ordinance. Meanwhile, the I-Team has obtained these staff meeting notes from a meeting following our initial investigation. There were still 7 dispatchers who needed medical training, with managers insisting, quote, these employees should not be scheduled to work the phones unless it is the last resort. And right now on WCPO.com, our entire investigation, including the 911 training requirements in your community.